Hello everyone, hope you're all having a wonderful day, and today guys we're going to be going over what I think are the best boss weapons inside of Liza P. Now there is no shortage of boss weapons inside of Liza P and they're all really solid options. In fact, I don't really think there is a bad boss weapon inside of Liza P. I think they all have their own personality and I think they fit just about any playstyle you can think of. And let's be honest, you don't really get a lot of resources to be upgrading your boss weapons. It is quite a scarce resource to actually come by, so unfortunately you can't just go and upgrade your boss weapons willy-nilly to get them all maxed out and just wreck the game. You might only have enough dark moonstone to actually level up maybe 2 to 3 weapons, depending on how much exploration you're actually doing. But I feel like most people for their first playthrough are probably only going to get about maybe 2 boss weapons fully upgraded. So hopefully I can provide some insight on some of the boss weapons inside of Liza P so you guys don't go and waste all your resource on a dog shit weapon. Now I'm going to be breaking these weapons down into 3 categories: motivity, technique, and quality. Unfortunately, there is no advanced boss weapon inside of Liza P. I'd like to think that might be cut content. It feels very out of place that there's multiple variations of other weapon scaling boss weapons in Liza P, but there's no advanced weapon. I feel like that feels a bit odd, so maybe that was cut content, maybe DLC, we will see advanced boss weapons, but for now there is none in the game. Now first up we are going to go through motivity. Now motivity gets a bad rap for being one of the slowest category of weapons inside of Liza P without having much hyper armor, but they are one of the hardest hitting categories of weapons inside of Liza P. So the first boss weapon I think is really good for motivity builds is the 7-coil spring sword. You get the 7-coil spring sword really early on. You actually just have to beat the parade master, the very first boss in the game, get his boss Ergo. You have to get through chapter 4 I think, and then you unlock Alidoro, and after that you can just exchange the Ergo in for the 7-coil spring sword. Now this weapon scaling is B for motivity and C for technique, so this weapon can make its way into technique builds, but I feel because you can scale it motivity up to A, it does work a lot better for your first playthrough, as you're not probably going to go for a quality build right off the rip. Now the damage for the 7-coil spring sword is actually pretty decent. It does have 270 plus 231. I am on my new game plus 3 runs, so I do have a lot more bonus damage because I do have my stats are a lot higher. But even then, 270 damage plus, I would say you'd probably at least get like 190, 200 bonus damage is really good. You also have decent damage reduction while you're also guarding at 61%. Now the Fabulars are really cool. You do get these 7 explosions, and this is kind of like the Blasphemous Blade in Elden Ring if you guys have ever used that. So what this Fabular does is you just put your sword in the air and you smack it down on the ground and you send out a big energy shockwave directly in front of you, a perfectly vertical shockwave. And it does do very decent damage. It's actually very fun Fabulars to use. It also does come with guard parry. Guard parry is very OP. The fact that it's actually a parry, you kind of knock the enemy's attack out of the way and get an attack in yourself. So if you are someone that likes using guard parry, the 7-coil spring sword might be the weapon for you. And its moveset is also pretty decent as well. The charge attack is very nice. You get a double swing. The last swing is the hit that will knock the enemy out of groggy into the fatal state. And it also has a nice backstep attack. When you backstep with this weapon and just do a light attack, you do a lunge forward. This is really good to just keep dodging the enemy's attack while also reaggressing on them very easily. Now next up, and another fantastic option if you are running motivity build, is the Holy Sword of the Ark. Now this weapon scaling is B for motivity and C for technique, so if you do put a technique handle on this weapon, you will get a better scaling for technique if you do want to run it with a technique build. Its damage is actually really good. It just edges a little bit better than the 7-coil spring sword, even though I do like that a little bit more. But it does have 263 base damage and 250 bonus damage. This is very nice. But what this weapon does have over the 7-coil spring sword is that it has way more damage reduction while we're guarding, with a whopping 71.8%. So you can kind of bulldoze your way through a lot of the bosses by just guarding through a lot of their attack. Now moving on over to the Fabulars. Now depending on how you look at it, one of the biggest negatives of this weapon is the fact that you do need to use a Fabular's charge to use the alter Fabulars on the handle to make the weapon longer or extend it out. And when you do this initially, your stamina consumption is reduced temporarily, which is kind of nice. But overall, it makes the weapon longer and a hell of a lot quicker, and it gives it a much better moveset. So depending on how you look at it, early game, it is kind of annoying having to use a Fabular charge to extend the weapon to actually make it kind of usable. But when you get to late game and New Game Plus and stuff like that, you're not going to have an issue whatsoever. You're probably going to have 5 Fabular charges. And when you do extend it, it does stay extended the whole duration that you're alive. As soon as you die, it does retract and you do have to use your Fable Art charge to re-extend it. Now the next Fable Art is Patent Smash. Now initially you do one slash by just consuming one Fable Art charge, but as you stack Fable Art charges, you do like a whole volley of slashes before you spin around and do a big finishing move, which does usually knock the enemy down for a stagger. It is a pretty good Fable Arts in the fact that you only have to use one Fable Art charge for each slash, but it is a lot better when you start stringing Fable Art charges together. You get a lot more out of this actual Fable Arts move. Now when it comes to this weapon, one really cool tip I can give you guys is take advantage of the heavy attack, especially when you've got the weapon extended. You do a really nice lunge, and it's really easy just to get those heavy attacks off the enemy without compromising yourself. It's really hard to choose between these two weapons, but if I had to choose one, I'd gotta say the 7-coil spring sword kind of pulls a little bit ahead for me personally, just because it is lighter, it does have a bit of a quicker moveset. But the Holy Sword of the Arc, when you do extend it, it does have a really nice lunge with that heavy attack. So it is just personal preference, but I do feel like these are two of the best boss motivity weapons inside of Lies of P. Now moving on over to the technique weapons, the first one up, I think it's absolutely no surprise to anybody, is the Two Dragon Sword. This weapon is absurd, man. It's kind of like a sword that doesn't really fit in this game in a way because of how ridiculous the moveset and the charge attack is with this weapon. Now a bit of the disclaimer with this weapon before we get into it though is a bit of a technical weapon to use. It doesn't really have good damage reduction while you're guarding, so if you're going to use this weapon, you need to be someone that knows how to perfect guard or feel comfortable in perfect guarding. And it also has one of the most insane charge attacks in the game that definitely takes a bit of practicing to get it down. But yeah, once you do get it down, it is arguably one of the best weapons in the game. Now, of course, being a technique weapon, the scaling is A for this sword, and motivity is also a D. You can make this into a quality build. If you do put a motivity handle on it, you will bring it to a CB, which is going to be better for quality builds. But if you are someone running a technique build, you can put a technique handle on this and you can make it S scaling, one of the best technique scaling weapons in the game. Now the damage on this weapon is actually pretty decent, sitting at 234 plus 187 bonus damage. Now it's pretty competitive for a weapon that is really quick. Now I did touch on this before, but the damage reduction while guarding isn't really that great, only sitting at 47%. So if you're someone that's not used to perfect guarding, this might not be the weapon for you. Now the Fable Arts on this weapon are so much fun to use, man. I don't think you're going to use them all the time, but they are definitely a get out of jail free card in most situations. Now the first one is the Link Emergency Dodge. Now what it lets you do is you're able to dodge forward, so you can just dodge through an enemy's move, and then when you follow up with more Fable charges, you do like a spinning slash, and it's very strong. And if you can time this attack perfectly, you absolutely finesse the enemy by dodging through their attack and just beat the shit out of their ass on the other side. And then the other Fable Arts, the one on the handle, the Wind of Sword. It's kind of like the Moonblade in Elden Ring, where you just kind of do a slash and you shoot out a massive beam of energy and it just takes all the enemies out. Really, really fun, really satisfying to use. But if that wasn't enough, the moveset on this weapon is just the icing on top of the friggin' cake. It has a pretty standard just lunge forward with your light attack, but when you start using your strong attack, that's when the versatility of this weapon opens right up. You're able to do a fadeaway slash into a lunging slash with your charge attack. If you hold down your charge attack, you do get a perfect parry for free. No Fable charges needed. It's literally inbuilt into the charge attack mechanic. You just like ting, and then if you get the timing right, you're able to perfect parry every enemy attack, and that is a parry. You knock their attack out of the way and slash them back. It's super satisfying to get it down. Very hard to get the timing right, but once you start getting a feel for the timing, it does start to become natural. Again, a really, really fun weapon, but it does have some technicality to the weapon itself. Now, to get the Two Dragon Sword for yourself, you have to have beaten the Swamp Boss in Chapter 8. He dropped his Ergo, you give that Alidoro, win-win. Now, maybe you're someone that can't use the Two Dragon Sword, you can't perfect guard to save your life, and you can't get that charge guard parry down to also save your life, literally. But do not worry, I've got you covered. The Puppet Ripper is another fantastic alternative. Now, you do eventually get the Puppet Ripper after you beat Romeo, the King of Puppets. Now, the damage for this weapon isn't the best, but there are some hidden features in this weapon that do make it a very, very good option. The scaling for this weapon is B in technique and C for motivity. Now, the damage reduction while guarding isn't the worst. It is at 51%. Now, the Fable Arts for this weapon, the first one is the quick upward slash. Now, this Fable Arts is okay. You just do a massive upward slash. It's pretty self-explanatory. But the the Fable Arts on the handle is where it gets very interesting. Now, this weapon arguably has some of the best AoE potential in the game, and some of the best AoE comes from this Fable Art, the Storm Spinning Slash. So when you use this Fable Art, you just swing your fucking weapon in the air, and you're just hacking and slashing everyone in a 360 radius of your position. Very fun and very satisfying to use. The moveset for this weapon is also very enjoyable to use. I think one of the best features about this weapon is its heavy attack. With this weapon's heavy attack, you do have a lot of reach. In fact, the reach is probably some of the best reach in the game. Now, if you can get some good positioning with this weapon, you'll never have an issue of hitting the enemy and worried about yourself getting hit. When you fully charge up the heavy attack, it goes even further than it did before, which makes it really easy to get those charge attacks on those groggy enemies, so you can get the fatal a hell of a lot easier. And then the last weapon I want to talk about, and arguably one of the best boss weapons in the game, right behind the Two Dragon Sword, and one of the best weapons for quality style build, is got to be the Trident of the Covenant. This weapon is absolutely disgusting. It's just pure filth on how much damage this weapon is able to output, because it has a critical strike rating. Now, the scaling on this weapon is B for technique and C for motivity, so you are able to use this for technique build, but I did feel on my New Game Plus and my New Game Plus Plus run that this weapon excelled a lot better in quality build. Now, the damage reduction rate while guarding is pretty decent at 55%. Nothing too crazy. It definitely might keep you alive longer in some situations. Now, the Fable Arts for this weapon is Link Rush Stab. I like how this Fable Arts literally tells you what you're going to do. You're going to Link Rush, and then you're going to stab the enemy. That's pretty much what you do. And then also this weapon has one of my favorite Fable Arts on the handle, and that is Guard Parry. Just like the 7-coil Spring Sword, we do have Guard Parry on our handle. I feel like this is one of the best Fable Arts to have on a handle besides Endure. And it goes without saying that the moveset for this weapon is very, very enjoyable to use, and you can use it with almost little to no negative impact on yourself, because a lot of the moves that you have with the Trident are lunges. Even the charge attack, you do a massive lunge forward. It's so easy to be able to hit charge attack on the enemy. You can do it at a safe distance away, knowing that you're going to go flying forward with your charge attack and hit the enemy. On top of having a cool moveset, the weapon's also very quick. For what it is, it's also a very quick weapon. I know a lot of people might have different opinions, but to me, I think arguably the strongest boss weapon in the game has to be the Trident of the Covenant. It's just a no-brainer. It's quick. It has a really good moveset. You can lunge, good Fable Art. It has critical strike rating. You can put the critical strike damage amulet on, and this thing just absolutely hits like a fucking truck. The Proof of Humanity is also a really good option, but the Trident pulls away exponentially with damage. I don't know why the damage isn't really that much different between Proof of Humanity and the Trident, yet the Trident somehow does way more damage. I don't know if it's the charge attack. Maybe each charge attack on weapons have different damage outputs. I'm not 100% sure, but either way, the Trident just feels a hell of a lot stronger than the Proof of Humanity, for anyone that wants to know that. And if you do want to pick up the Trident of the Covenant for yourself, you do have to beat the Archbishop first. He does drop his Ergo, and that is how you get the Trident of the Covenant. That is basically, guys, hopefully this video does help you guys out. Hopefully my little peanut brain hasn't forgotten anything. In this video, there was a bit to unpack, and I really hope I haven't forgotten anything. If there is, please let me know in the comment section. Appreciate all the love and support, as always, on the videos recently, guys. It has been absolutely amazing. But until next time, stay safe. Peace out.